Hello everyone and welcome back to A Mile of My Stilettos. I'm Crystal, and those of you that joined me last time know this is my husband, Mr. Ricky Jones Jr.
Hello.
I already told you guys you're going to start seeing more of him on the channel. I'm not just going to talk about him. I'm going to let y'all see him.
Thank you. 2021 has already been great for us.
Yes.
This is our second video together.
Yes.
It's only 3 months in. I'm blessed.
So, you guys, I wanted to do a video today where I talked about how I knew Ricky was the one. So, you guys that are familiar with our story about how we met, got engaged, all of that in 9 months. If you didn't check it out, go check it out. But those of you that are familiar with the story know a huge part of that story is God told us. Like, we knew we were the ones for each other because God said it. But I also recognize that sometimes you could think God said some things that he didn't say, especially as it pertains to dating. You can think, you know, a lot of things, like a lot of times people will come and tell you like, God said you're the one that I'm supposed to marry. Like, God never told me nothing like that.
Right.
Like, he couldn't, based on what I want, he could not have told you anything like that. So,
and I ended up in a relationship with somebody who said God said that you were my husband. So I was like, all right, I love God. I'll try this out.
He just went for it. He just
Clearly
went for it. But it's okay, because definitely there are some ways that, you know, of course, that's a big one. But there are other things that happen too that let me know, yes, Ricky is for sure the one. Yes, this is God that is saying that he is the one. And so I wanted to let you ladies in on that, because I know when you're praying for a husband, it could be really, it could just be really, or even a wife for, you know, men, it could be really challenging sometimes to decipher, like, am I hearing clearly? Is my heart pure towards what God is saying, or do I want this person because
I'm lonely or I'm lusting?
So anyways,
or I like where they're going.
Okay, so enough of all this pre-talk. We jumping into the videos. Y'all know I like to jump right into the videos. So boom, God told me Ricky was my husband. Now, when God said Ricky is your husband, it was not this auditory voice. It wasn't like this sound outside of my mind, outside of my body, and I was like, where did that come from? Like, it was not all of that. It was like this quiet inner, like, sound that was like, like, it was.
You hear my story. Go ahead, my bad.
It was more like a whisper of he's the one. And I was like, okay. Like, and first I was like, he's younger than me though, and I didn't expect that. It wasn't even that I didn't want that, I just didn't expect that. And so I was like, he's
only
younger
2
than
years.
me. And yeah, only by 2 years. And then God was, the next thing God was saying, as I started having this mental conversation, as I'm actually standing in front of Ricky, he's talking to me, and I'm mentally having this whole other conversation with God about him being my husband, and he didn't even ask me on no date yet. So, like, I heard him say he's the one, and then I was like, you know, he's younger than me, and then after that, God was like, listen to what he's saying. He's everything that you said you wanted. I'm bringing you what you said you wanted. And so I was like, okay. And for those of you who missed the making your list, checking it twice video, make sure you go check that out, because I have a whole video about the list. But I was like, okay, so let me listen to what he's saying. And so I really did start listening to what he was saying, and he did match up with the things that I was saying that I wanted. So that was a big thing. One, it wasn't just me hearing what God said, but two, he actually also matched what it is that I said that I wanted. If you feel like God may be saying that somebody is the one, but they don't actually match the things you said you wanted, you might not be hearing what God is saying for real, like super clear. Or you need to ask God, like, okay, so is it that this is not the right time? Because I see what I'm looking at, I hear what I'm hearing, and it's not matching up. Because honestly, especially when it comes to something like your spouse, God does want to give you the desires of your heart. And so that was another big thing. He was actually what I was looking for. The next thing, this is a big thing.
So question, do they know the ambiance you were in when you were having this conversation with God, as well as having the conversation with me?
if they watched the video, they did.
If
they didn't watch the video, go check the video out. How I met and married my husband in 9 months.
Package. You want the package to know.
But I don't want to be redundant for people that already know our story, you know?
I'm getting it.
So, but if you haven't seen it, go check it out. So, the second thing that really was a huge key for me was one day Ricky and I had a pool party. And after the party, me and Ricky was like, I ain't gonna lie, y'all, we was kissing. That's what was happening. We was kissing. And Ricky was like,
that was coming out. Guess we here now.
Ricky was like, I wanna wait until I get married to have sex again. And I was like, okay. And I was already like in the midst of my 3-year celibacy journey. So that was fine. I was like, okay. And the reason that was so big for me is because I know relationships that I had in the past, I was always the driving force behind wanting to not have sex until we got married. So that was such a change of pace to encounter someone that really wanted to respect my body, that wanted to respect my desire to be celibate. And so that was just like, that was a major thing. So I was like, okay. So I was like, he's like, you know, I really want to marry you. Are you good with that? I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, so that was the second thing that I would say was really a big thing for me that let me know he was different. He did stand apart from other guys. Again, matching things that were on my list. And then also I know that for marriage, God wanted to bring me into a relationship that was going to help push me to be the best version of myself. And even in that moment, it helped me to see that he was going to be a man that was going to help encourage me to be the very best version of myself. And not only in that moment, but also even in school and other things, he'd be like, no, I'm studying, I'm doing this, you know, whatever. And so it was just continuous things that I would say Ricky did that spoke to where I knew God was leading me to. And so I would say that's another great way for you to know, is this really the person for you when you feel like you're hearing the voice of God in conversations that you have with that person, in engagements, you know, when you're hanging out, when you're doing things with that person. Do you feel like the conversations that you're having are speaking to where you are, or do they speak to the person that you know God is calling you to be? And I've transformed, I would say, so much since Ricky and I got married. We weren't doing YouTube. I wasn't doing YouTube. I didn't have a thought of doing YouTube before we got married. And so now, obviously, you guys that are tuned in on this channel, you guys are tuned in on our other channel. YouTube is a huge part of our life at this point. But since we've always been able to grow, mature, and evolve with each other, it wasn't even a hard transition. As we go through life, growing and evolving and maturing together isn't a hard thing because we were already having conversations like that when we were dating. We were already going through that journey while we were dating. So I feel like that was another really big thing. That, like I said, was just another checkbox that let me know. Now, I did have one really major concern when I first met Ricky. And it was that he said he was going to go to the military. He was like, I'm in school and I'm going to be a chaplain in the military. And I called my mentor. I believe in having mentors because that's another thing. I checked in with my mentor, my mother, these people. Like, listen, there's this guy. But I called her and I was like, Miss Deborah, her name is Deborah. I was like, Miss Deborah, I was like, I feel like this guy is supposed to be my husband. I believe God told me that, but he's talking about going to the military, and I know God didn't tell me that. Like, I know with what I'm called to do in my life, like God didn't say that to me. And she was like, well, Crystal, he can hear from God. He can hear from God, and you just be patient. Like, if that's not what it's supposed to be, then God will speak to him. And that was such a great word of wisdom because I didn't from that point go and say, well, I know God told me this word, so I need to go tell him, like, listen, you're supposed to be my husband, so you're going to have to set that aside, and that's just not going to work. I didn't say anything, but literally, I would say within maybe a week of me having that conversation with my mentor, he ended up telling me, oh, you know what? Actually, I think I'm going to do missions. And that's like, I do missions. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, I'm not going to go to the military. I'm going to finish getting my master's. And I'm not going to actually enlist in the military. And I was like, wow. So enroll. Sorry, enlist, enroll.
Yeah, it's levels to it.
Join the military.
Levels.
And so I was just like, wow, that was another thing that was just, like I said, a check in the box for me that was like showing me God was alongside the path. And another, I would say the last thing that probably is a major thing when you're really trying to know, is it God that's really the one saying this is the person for you? One, you don't have to tell them. God will tell them. And then two, I said the last thing, but 2 things. And then two, you don't have to manipulate a situation to make it be what it needs to be. I didn't have to manipulate anything in order to get him to see that, oh, we're supposed to be married. I didn't drop hints for him like, oh, I think God kind of told me something, like, has God been speaking to you lately? Like, I didn't have to drop any hints like that. I didn't have to, walk around, I don't know, just doing weird stuff where I was trying to manipulate the situation or push the situation into something that wasn't already God. Right. And so I would say
you were clear about the desire of getting married and not just talking about getting married.
For sure. So, the first day we met.
And hearing that is not like, don't say anything, right? Things can be said, but at the same time, have that leeway to allow them to hear from God, them be your God.
But you know what's funny? Even when I mentioned to you that first day that we met, and at that point in the conversation, even when I mentioned to you, you're like, oh, you dating? I was like, no, I'm not dating nobody. I'm going to get married. Like, I'm tired of dating. I want to get married. Even at that moment, I was still then, I hadn't heard the voice of God even tell me that you were my husband yet. I was just being upfront and honest with where I was at my place in life.
Yeah.
So listen, y'all, God is going to make sure that along the way, he confirms what it is that he said to you. You're not, like I said, going to have to try to help other people hear what you said. Like, the biggest red flag to me is when people walk up and be like, hey, y'all ain't been hanging out or if y'all haven't been hanging out or anything, you're not even dating at this point, and they just walk up and they're like, hey, you're my spouse. Like, I'm sorry, what's your phone number? Like, that is a huge red flag, because if nothing else, I feel like if y'all haven't even exchanged information, gotten to know each other yet, that's just so aggressive and it's so abrupt. It's very
deterrent.
It's a deterrent, because you haven't even given that person a chance to realize that they know you and they actually like you. Like, it's like you're making this assumption you're gonna like me. Like, am I?
I don't even like the way you came at me.
I don't like the way you came at me.
Let's start
just
there.
telling me, so, and then of course he did tell me what God told him, and it was after the fact, but we had already spent time together then, so it was an appropriate time for him to say that to me. And I know some people are like, well, is it okay if the girl tells the guy first, like, oh, God said you're supposed to marry me, or should the guy be the one that tells the girl? And honestly, I feel like that's I don't want to say preference thing, but I would say my preference, I would say, is let the guy say it. Let the guy say it first. You can definitely express that you have interest first. You can definitely make sure you're clear. Like Ricky said, clear about where you stand, the fact that you want to get married. If you're spending your time with this person, all of that, that is fine. I would say don't just go off telling guys, oh, you're supposed to be my husband. And they're like, I mean, this is only the second date. I was just kind of trying to get to know you. Yes, let them know your intention is marriage. You can let them know that from day one before they even take you out. But don't just start telling them, oh, you're gonna marry me, because you you may be very ready, but at the end of the day, and call me old school, but the guy is the one that's going to propose. Right. And so you want to make sure he's in a place where he's heard the same thing from God. And so that's my little thoughts on that. Definitely, our dating relationship had its challenges. I would say dating / engagement, because it was all just like really fast. But it had its challenges, but at the same time, I was always at such peace with what I knew I heard. And even in the midst of different challenges that we had, I always was able to root and ground myself and find more peace when I reflected on, I know this is what God said. Even just reflecting on that thought was able to give me so much peace. Yep. In the midst of everything that was going on. So I would also say allow peace to be your guide. And you know what that inner peace that you get from God feels like when you know you made the right decision, when you know you did the right thing. So allow that to lead you. If there's always this hesitancy when you're going to spend time with this person, always these questions in your mind about, okay, am I wasting my time? There was not one time when I was spending time with Ricky where I was like, is this a waste of my time? I never thought that. I never thought that. Well. And so I would say that's another good way to know too, like just thinking about that peace of mind, keeping that peace of mind, that peace that comes from God when you know, again, you made the right decision. So even if you're still growing in your walk with God and you don't hear this auditory voice, or, which, I don't know, that's weird, but you don't hear this auditory voice, or you're not sure if you heard this super clear yes, let the inner peace that God gives you guide you in the decisions that you're making. I would say that would be the next best thing that you can do.
Question. I want for you all to ask, if you have it, ladies, if you have any questions from that you would like to know from a male's perspective in the category and area that we're talking about,
dating, relationships, getting married. That's the category I'm talking about.
All right, put in the comment section. I would love to be able to see.
Because it's not just good to hear from men, it's good to hear from men that are the married type. If you getting all your advice from dudes, men that have no intentions on ever getting married, their whole mindset is different. So it's good to hear from men that are the married type.
Correct.
And we know he the married type because he married me.
Correct. My parents still married, 33 years. Their parents was married, like it's legacy.
Yes. So you guys, we're also going to be doing a video where we talk about how Ricky knew I was the one for him. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. This is a 2-part video, 1 part with me, 1 part with him answering the questions. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss that video. And you go ahead, you watch all the other Miss to Miss Journey videos. Join the Mile High Club. And until next time, like I say, you guys,